Hey, you are looking at a Nixie Tube simulator, and the key word is simulator. Nixie tubes were developed sometime in the mid-50s, and they were the early days of digital displays. Digital voltmeters, frequency counters, and even some early calculators. The only way to do a digital display back then was typically a Nixie tube. Nixie tubes were replaced sometime in the mid-70s when LEDs came out. But now, people like myself, they like that glowish look of a Nixie tube. It just has a unique look. And to buy a real Nixie tube clock today is kind of expensive, and because it's a tube, they can be unreliable. The tube actually has neon and argon in it, so it can leak, it can fail. The next best thing is to get one of these simulators. These simulators have a look of a Nixie tube, and what we have here is LCD displays underneath a glass tube. So this is just a simple LCD for each digit, and these tubes are held in with a small magnet. You can see the two silver dots there, and that clicks in, and this is glass, it's not plastic. And on the back of the LCD displays is an LED to add extra color to the clock, and you can change the colors in the app. The clock itself is made out of metal. It is not plastic. It's got a good hefty feel to it. So this whole band here is some sort of an aluminum. The top of the clock, which is kind of cool, is clear, I'm going to assume plexiglass. And so you get to see the components inside the clock, which is neat. There's also a lithium battery in there to keep the time going if there's a power failure. It's not going to light up the display, but it's just going to keep the internal time. The clock is powered by a USB-C cable. They include a braided right-angle USB-C cable with the product, which is nice. I like that it's right-angled so it doesn't stick out very far. They also include a power brick, so you don't need to worry about having a spare charger brick laying around. It is included with the package. The way you program this clock is using an app. The app is available for Apple or for Android, and I'm going to show the Android app today. So if we look at the app, it has some basic functions here. The first option is time mode, where it just shows what you see right now is hours, minutes, and seconds. If you want, it can toggle between that and time and date. So if we press time and date, now it's going to cycle between the time and the date. As you can see here, it'll flip back and forth. It leaves the center digits blank, and it shows the month and the day. So that's what that's about. Now, if you're wondering about 12 and 24-hour time format, it's interesting. The app doesn't let you pick 12 or 24, but it's not an issue. It's going to look at the settings on your smartphone. So if your smartphone is set up for 12-hour format, that's what the clock is going to be set for. So if you've got 24-hour format on your phone, you'll get 24-hour format on your Nixie clock simulator. Now the interesting thing is, let's say you don't want it to do Nixie display. Because it's an LCD display, we can have it do any kind of graphics. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on time mode so it just stays consistently in one display. So now if we look here, there's a thing called clock style, and it says default style. So I'm going to pick that little tick mark there, and now we have something called customized clock. So here we can pick from 40 different styles of graphics. It has a nice selection. So if we hit the customize button here, now you can come down and look at these various styles by scrolling through. So this is an interesting one. It looks like Lego bricks. So let's pick that style. We say yes on the bottom. And then you have to press send. So it's going to upload that graphics to the clock. And then within a few seconds, it updates the clock, as you can see. I'll adjust the camera angle a little bit. And you can see now it's Lego bricks. Now, understand that the camera is slightly overexposing the picture. It's not quite as bright as you see in the camera, so you see much better colors in person than what the camera is showing. So let's say we go back, we hit the back arrow button here. And actually I want to go back to the styles. So using this customize button, you can flip through these various styles here. And it will show you a nice array of different clocks to look at with different graphics. There's just a classic digital clock. Here's one with some thick fonts and some colors. This one is a little bizarre. Actually, several of these clocks are kind of bizarre looking. Here's again one with thick colors. And there are 40 different styles here. I'm just going to flip through them fairly quickly. So like if we wanted to look at that one, we would just hit the yes button, hit send, and then within a few seconds it updates each digit to the new graphic, and there we go. So a lot of options there. So let's say we get out of customize clock, and there is a way of uploading your own custom graphics. That's using custom album. I have not played with that, but that's where you can upload your own graphics to the tubes, and each display can have its own graphic. On the top of each LCD display, there is a LED back there. Let's see here. You can tip this over. You can see right now it's using a rainbow of colors, and it's fluctuating the color. So it just adds more color to the whole ambience of the clock. Well, you can tune that. There's a way of going into the app, and you can play with this background light style here. And you can change it to all blue, all red, you know, whatever you want. So actually, if we go in here, see, so you can pick your colors if you want. So maybe you want every LED to be red or yellow or blue, pink. You can pick whatever you want. And you can also change the brightness of those LEDs in the back. Now, here's a issue that I don't care for. There is no way to change the brightness of the actual LCD panels. So you can't adjust the brightness of the clock. That's fixed. Because I find at nighttime in a very dark room it's a little bright. There's no way to tune it. And I looked on the circuit board. I don't see anything that looks like a light sensor where it would auto adjust the brightness based on the room lighting. So if we want to bring it back to a standard clock, I got stuck with this once when I brought all these tigers up on the screen. I didn't know how to get it out of that mode. First I'm going to put it back to time mode. And that's how you get it out of that custom mode. And if you want to get it back to the neon, it's a little unusual. The clock style here does not have the Nixie Tube look in it. So how do you get it back to that mode? What you have to do is pick default style here. And then hit the yes button. And then the tricky part is you have to hit the send button. That's the part I missed. And once you hit the send button, it goes back to the neon Nixie Tube look. So the app's a little clumsy. It's not great, but once you know the trick on how to make it work, it's not that bad. So what is the trick? What happens is when you first try to connect this up, you power this up, then you get to your internet options on your phone. And in my case, I'm going to press internet. And then it's going to show you all of the routers and access points that you might have in your home. Well, in this case, my access point is gquerying TP5, and it's set to auto connect. That can interfere with getting this to work correctly. What you might have to do is turn off the auto connects on your other Wi-Fi devices for this to work correctly. Luckily, I did not have to do that. All I had to do was go and hit in here on the gear, and then I selected the option to auto connect. Once I set that auto connect option, the app worked perfectly. Without that set, the app does not work. It is constantly disconnecting from the clock. So that's the little secret to getting this app to work fairly reliably. Now, what's weird is on the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Fan Edition tablet, which I also own, I didn't have to do anything fancy. The app worked perfectly on the first shot. I also have an iPad M1 Pro tablet. The iPad doesn't even see the clock in the Wi-Fi network. I tried different settings. I reboot the clock. I rebooted the iPad. It won't even see the SSID for it. So I don't know if that's my iPad or something else going on, but it's the only Apple device I own. I don't have any iPhones from Apple. Other than that, it comes in a fairly nice box. So if you want to give this as a gift, you get a fairly nice box for this. It's very well packed. There's a small assembly required. All of these LCD displays and these glass tubes get stored in these pockets in the foam. So all the glass tubes are there. The LCD displays go in these little slots here. The clock was here. It does include a power brick, so you don't have to go out and find your own power brick for it. It does include a USB-C cable. It's a USB-A to USB-C cable. It does come with a manual, but the manual, although it looks slick, when the app doesn't work for you, this manual is not going to help. As I said, you've got to set that auto connect on the SSID, and then it'll work fine. It also shows you how to assemble it, which is very simple. There's nothing complex about that. There's also something called a gesture sensing module. I haven't played with this too much. It did work, but they're talking about here the gesture sensing function can be working again after the power is off and restarted. Somehow it got turned off on mine, so apparently I'd have to cycle the power on this to get that working again. I would prefer to not have that working because I don't want to have it that every time I put my hand over it, it changes the function of the clock. Now here's the other negative issue that I'm not happy with. Because this is acting as an access point to connect to your phone, it is not actually talking to your Wi-Fi network directly. So it is not syncing the time with an NTP server. So you're not going to get atomic accuracy here. This clock is internal, and since I've only had it for a day, I can't tell you how accurate it's going to be. Every time you use the app and you hit the send button, it will sync the correct time to the clock. But I think once everybody has this clock set up correctly, we're probably not going to use the app again. And I would assume for daylight savings time and standard time, we might have to reconnect the clock to the app to get the time readjusted. There's not any mention in here if it does daylight savings time on its own. I have no idea. Something else that I noticed today when I went to visit the website, NovelLife, they have a 2023 document on there, and this one is labeled 2022 version 2.1. The website mentions these tubes having switches on them where you can press down, put pressure on the top of the tube, the glass tube, and it'll act as a switch to program the clock so you don't need an app. And the front of the display has text on it so you can set the time and do various other functions from the clock itself. So this might be an older version that I have that has this gesture. They call this the gesture control here, this sensor. Through this sensor, there's ways of programming the clock without the app. And what I discovered is once you use the app, the sensor is disabled. You have to actually reboot the clock to get the sensor to activate again. But I actually like that the sensor is off because I don't want to have it when I wave my hand over it that it starts getting into different modes by accident. But just something to take note of in case you'd maybe want to shop around for the 2023 edition. So other than that, do I think it's worth $100 and some? I absolutely do. I love it. I'm into these type of displays. I have a little retro display that I built last year from AliExpress, for example. And I just like goofy stuff like this. That's an LED display. It's a solder kit. You actually have to solder a whole bunch of chips together and everything. But I've always loved the look of Nixie tubes. And if you're into this kind of stuff, I think it's worth $100 and some for it.